partners for a very long time. We've been focused on the ISV sector since 2014. We actually started business in 2011 as a VMware specialist, but migrated, well, not migrated, we added Azure support in 2014 and have remained focused on the SaaS sector ever since, pretty much. We are an AWS partner, even though our heritage is in Azure. We're now supporting software companies on AWS as well. There's about 50 of us in the team, mostly in New Zealand, but spread across Australia, Singapore. We've got someone in Bangladesh, someone in India, someone in the USA. They're starting to spread out a bit now. We're part of Crayon ultimately, so we were acquired by Ripe about 2 years ago, and Ripe was acquired by Crayon a year ago. So now there's a Crayon presence in about 50 countries around the world with about 4,000 staff. Our NPS score, which we focus on a lot in terms of understanding customer sentiment, is currently running at, I think, 61.2 as of this morning. We do a quarterly survey and it's only just happened. And we scale, our services are for SaaS companies with, 100 users to SaaS companies with over 300 million. Actually got 250 million there, but it's grown since then. So really SaaS specialist, really zeroing in on that. On what's required to make SaaS companies successful. So in the years of working with all these SaaS companies and ISVs wanting to move to the SaaS model, we've seen some common barriers to growth, and this is more so coming from a platform perspective. So please bear that in mind in terms of the context of what I'm talking about. But what we see in the life cycle of SaaS companies, especially new ones, is that typically, it'll be a few people that come up with this, burning here, business problem to solve. And normally one of those people is a specialist in whatever the sector is that the SaaS business will solve for. For example, might be a risk specialist or a advertising specialist or whatever. And so, those bunch of people get going and they're building their SaaS app, and a couple of years go down the track. And of course, when you start a business, as we all know, you wear 100 different hats in terms of the roles that you have to do. You get the milk in the morning, and you also sweep the floor, and you also do sales, and you also do marketing, and so on. And then as you get bigger, especially if you achieve product market fit, which all of you in the SaaS world will know what I mean. Basically, what you're building is what people want to buy, and now you're getting quite a lot of demand. There's a maturity cycle to go through. And we see this in many of our customers and the people that we talk to. And some of those issues that come up are because there's still not enough people wearing too many hats, basically. And so, you focus on the things that cause a business to grow, but then aren't focused on the things that need to be solid in order to, enable that growth. And some of the symptoms are cost blowouts. So no doubt everyone has had a bill from a public cloud provider, not just Azure. This happens on all of them, where someone turned something on, forgot about it, and now there's a big bill that you weren't expecting. And when you're a startup with limited funds, that can be really terrible. So that's a normal thing to occur. When the development team, who perhaps used to look after the platform, are now really focused on building features and keeping up with demand and getting that feature out that keeps you ahead of your competition and so on, poor performance and availability issues are not uncommon. I've been acting CTO for one of our SaaS customers, and I've been on the phone with customers telling me that they have these problems. This is as we were helping them to rectify them. So I totally get it. Security concerns, fingers crossed you don't suffer from that, but it's pretty easy to especially with inexperienced people perhaps using public cloud for the first time, to turn something on and be unaware that they've created a security issue, and then that can be a real problem and barrier to growth. And of course, we aren't immune to this either, but we're all suffering from the difficulty in recruiting people. So these are some really common issues, and no doubt these will resonate probably with all of you on the call. So what have we seen in terms of businesses that seem to grow well what are the key themes that they're focused on? And it really comes down to these 4 pillars. It's people, product, prospects, and customers. Making sure you're focusing on your people so you retain them so they don't churn. I know that's a real problem at the moment, but you really have to create an environment where all of their needs are met so that, moving to somewhere else doesn't make any sense. And I know that's easy to say and difficult to do, but absolutely something that must be focused on. Product is, that speaks for itself. Product is your business. You've got to be focused on product. You've got to ensure that the features are better than your competitors. You've got to keep up with your competitors. You've got to make the end user experience wonderful. There's a whole lot of demands based on that, of course. If you're not focusing on your prospects, you're not selling. If you're not selling, you're not growing. If you don't grow, you won't get funding. It's really existential, isn't it? And of course, you've got to keep your customers happy. Keeping those churn rates down, is absolutely essential. I know this is probably, I'm telling you what you already know, but really just making it visible. So how do you achieve that when you have this myriad of things that you've got to manage and run and make sure everything's, fabulous all the time, and it's so hard to do? Well, there's a lot of things that you don't need to focus on. And that's sort of where an organization like Parallel, and to a degree, Microsoft, what is built into the Azure platform, can help you with. So, the technical noise of running an app on public cloud, there is a lot of moving parts, especially as you scale up. You might have replication and, failover, and now you're running in 6 regions around the world because you want to be next to your customers. There's a lot of things to do. And we'll talk about why it's not a great idea for you to be focused on that and why you should really focus, enable someone else to look after it for you. But certainly the 4 pillars of operational excellence from Parallel's perspective, we think everything comes back to these. It's security, performance, availability, and cost. If you make sure that those are always in control and where you expect them to be, then most likely your end user, the most important person in the world, will be having a great experience and won't churn out. So if we look at some empirical data, and yes, I do apologise in advance, this is New Zealand based, not Singapore based, but it's probably indicative of, the norms globally. So this is public software as a service companies on the, ASX and NZX, so Australia and New Zealand, with a market cap greater than 100 million. So accept that that's, that is meant for many of us, it's not us, but it's still a really good indicator that the higher your growth rate, the higher the valuation multiple. And that is empirical data. So, this is reinforcing that message that I gave you earlier, that you've got to keep that growth rate accelerating. And if you get distracted trying to manage platforms and get, into the weeds around stuff that doesn't differentiate your business, then you're not going to achieve these. So, think of the multiple impact on the amount of dilution that you'll need to incur, when you need to do the next round. If you've got a fabulous growth rate, your multiple will be higher, your business will be worth more, you'll dilute less to get the next round. So it's just so essential to grow quickly. So how do you do that? Well, we think you really need to focus on what makes you different. And if you think of the consumer expectation that Netflix and Spotify have set for us, we all expect SaaS applications to always be present and always be responsive. We just expect that. So there is no point you putting any effort into achieving that, because that doesn't differentiate you whatsoever. You should go and find a organization that can do that for you, does it for lots of others, can do it way cheaper, faster, and better probably than your business can, and instead focus your people on the things that do differentiate you, specifically like your product. So one of the other themes, I guess, that we've seen from our customers and interactions is really that it's quite important to build for where you want to be. You can't. There's some reasonableness that needs to go into that statement, of course, but we see a lot of. In fact, I'll give you a specific example. We have one of our biggest customers actually has a. I won't give it away because it's I need to keep them confidential, but they're a big organization. They have lots of B2B customers, and it's a fabulous business started by a Vietnamese refugee actually who came to New Zealand, and he was very industrious and very innovative. He taught himself how to code, and he came up with this business problem to solve, and he started a SaaS company doing that. We first got engaged with them as we were migrating them off a bunch of sort of generic PCs, basically in a sort of room, onto Azure. It was an IaaS migration. Since then, we've helped them to modernize and so on. And he had built this thing, based on the knowledge that he had. And one of the things that I guess he didn't really have in mind at the time was building for, hundreds of thousands of customers. And so roll forward, I don't know, 10 years or so, the business got acquired for a very good amount. And so, fabulous for him. And now they're growing really quickly, and there are database constraints due to the way that it was built, and they are major. And so I actually had the CEO tell me, Simon, I have 18 months left of acquiring new customers, and then I have to stop because we'll be at the highest, we've scaled up to the highest tier of database that we can on Azure, and it won't, we can't go any further. So we have to get rid of this technical debt. And that's a really good example. I mean, imagine that. Imagine having to stop accepting new customers because of a tech debt issue holding you back. So that's a good example of where you really need to be thinking, okay, what is my aspirational goal? And remember that, SaaS businesses have global reach. So, don't be constrained by, I'm just building for Singapore, or I'm just building for Southeast Asia. If your problem that your SaaS app is solving is a global problem, think about going global. I know it's easy to say and hard to do, but it's really important, I think, to have that in mind and make sure that your architecture and so on is done in a way that you can, like a building block approach, it's not going to restrain you later, because, man, it is a major issue for that customer that I mentioned to you. And there's a number of ways to do that. This is getting a little bit technical, but one of them is a strangler facade, where you might have an interface that the rest of your application talks to in front of the legacy part of your code. In the meantime, you build the new module, and then gradually over time, you migrate the calls from the old module to the new module, and then you get rid of the old module altogether. So, there's a number of ways to do that, which of course we and the Microsoft Fast Track team can help you to think through. In terms of cost optimization, here is an empirical, this is actual numbers in New Zealand dollars for a recent customer acquisition of ours. So we came in, and this is a business that's been around for quite a long time. They interrogate the quality of phone calls, like voice over IP phone calls, mostly for the US market, doing more than 500 million phone calls a month that they're analyzing using AI and so on, all powered by Azure. So it's an absolutely fabulous organization, but they had sort of let their costs get out of control. And a lot of that was because they were going through a modernization approach of being able to scale to the next generation of their platform. And the development team didn't have good control over the test environments that they were spinning up. And so the cost just ramped up and got really out of control. So we came in and helped them to understand this, and help them to understand how they can optimize cost, put reserved instances in place, schedule the scale down and up of resources and so on. This really fundamental stuff that everyone can do to get their cost under control. So you can see they've gone from about 260,000 to 170, and that's probably, I think there are more reserved instances that we can apply, so it'll drop even more. So we're probably saving them 100,000 a month. So it's absolutely possible, but someone needs to be tasked with focusing on it, because we're all busy, we all have day jobs, and unless cost optimization is your day job, it's so easy to just let go, but so critical to focus on. So really taking advantage of support to accelerate is essential. And even organizations like SG Tech, great example. There are lots of organizations and lots of people, and even the vendors, you'll be surprised at the help that you can get from Microsoft and from us and Ripe and so on, to help you to grow. And don't be shy to ask for it. There is so much interest in the SaaS ecosystem that there are tons of people ready to help. There's lots of user groups you can sign up to. There's, SG Tech's got a variety of chapters that can help. Certainly don't be shy, because we all need a hand to get to where we are, right? You hear people talk about being self-made, and it's like, well, you weren't self-made. You had a whole lot of people in the background who sort of supported you and helped you to become self-made. It's interesting. So really just to summarize, and I know I've really skimmed over the top here, but it's really important to focus on what differentiates. You know, having a stable platform is essential, but it doesn't differentiate you anymore. You know, like I mentioned, Spotify and Netflix have set that example for us. Think big, don't constrain yourself, and make sure that you get the right advice at the start so that you don't build technical debt into your platform. You need to constantly monitor that. And there are a whole lot of resources out there to help you to accelerate, so don't be shy to take advantage of them. And that is me. Sorry, our Singapore SaaS partner lead is Julie Blacklick, who I think might be on the call, but Julie is the direct person to reach out to. We can share this with you later, and she's more than happy to help you. So thank you very much for your time, and I'll hand back to Manoj. Thank you, Manoj. You're muted, I think, Manoj.
Sorry, am I sharing my screen right?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Simon, for sharing interesting insights on the different barriers to ISV growth and how we could overcome them. Our next speaker is Nina Suri. She will share on how Zopa scaled up their business globally. Nina is the founder and CEO of Zopa Private Limited. Nina is a serial entrepreneur and a geek at heart. She comes from an engineering background with a degree in electronics and telecommunication, and has been managing and running businesses in the HR space for more than 20 years. Ms. Nina, over to you.
Thank you, Manoj. Firstly, thank you very much for inviting Zopa to be part of this wonderful forum. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, SG Tech, Microsoft, and Parello. A quick look at what we do at Zopa. Zopa is an AI platform. We are an AI data-driven company. We work with the B2B, we work with enterprises, we work with government, and we work with academia to make hiring and selections smart, by using data and automation to make hiring and selections equitable without bias, make them predictable, and make them efficient. So typically, we've kind of been auditing our clients. Not only do we save them cost and time in hiring, and I know that is a big topic at the moment with so much of talent movement. So a lot of efficiencies, removing the fat from your hiring process, making sure there is that employer branding, that candidate experience, but more importantly, really making sure that you're hiring unbiased, not just because it's the right thing to do, but it's a smart thing to do. So you want to hire for the right reasons, and make sure that you are not losing out. So we always say that Zopa helps you screen people in rather than screen people out. So, and because it's very data driven, very AI driven, a lot of these biases. One of our biggest aim is to remove as many biases as possible from the hiring process. We are a very, very proud Microsoft partner. We've been partners with Microsoft now since we started in 2017. We were on a different cloud platform initially, and then we met with Microsoft, and it's probably one of the best decisions we took. We are very committed to ethical AI and explainable AI. We are part of the IMDA forum for setting the governance for AI for good and explainable ethical AI. Microsoft is a big partner here and works very closely with us to make sure that our algorithms are constantly audited and so on. A quick look, we are SGD accredited, and a lot of companies in Singapore would relate to that. We got this accreditation, so we are on the green lane for a lot of government business. in Singapore. We were invited by the private office of Sheikh Al Maktoum to bring in our technology to the UAE market. We were named as the IDC AI Automation Innovator for APAC, and we are very, very closely partnered with Microsoft, SAP, amongst a lot of other partners. So very quick one, like I mentioned, we work with enterprises, we work with government, and we work with academia, trying to capture the life cycle of the job seeker, right from internship, actually right from admissions to interns, graduation, down to their journey into work life. We do a lot of work with the Singapore government, and I'll talk about that in a minute. So really kind of take the entire process. So it's an end-to-end hiring process, which takes you right from creating job descriptions with AI, to sourcing candidates, to screening, we've got patents for that, and we are really proud of that. And the way it's very, very equitable and unbiased, taking them through virtual interviews and assessments, and really automating the entire platform. So just kind of showing some of the predicted scoring that Zopa is able to do, and like I mentioned, we've got patents for these. We also have a virtual interview and assessment platform built on Azure, uses a lot of cognitive tools of Azure. So it includes asynchronous video interviews, coding assessments, soft skill assessments, DISC assessments, you name it. So, and all done asynchronous. So really saves companies and job seekers a lot of time and really scale. So you can do 100, 500, 1 million interviews at one shot. Just kind of I wanted to talk about a little bit about the sensitivity of why your cloud partner is so important. And there is a lot of business that we do with the public sector here in Singapore, including the My Careers Future portal, which a lot of us know about, which is the national portal of Singapore. We process close to 20,000 jobs in a day just on that portal. More than 100 million resumes across all our clients. Is just so important to have a solid cloud, not just from the stability, security, cybersecurity, data protection, but a partner that can be trusted when it comes to your data and can be kind of really be there for you through the entire journey. So, I cannot stress enough on the importance of cloud, and I'll just jump into that in a minute. A lot of our partners there, but I'm here today to speak about how we look at expansion. And disclaimer, obviously, this is our story, and hopefully we are on the right path, but I'd love to share what we do to go from local to global. First thing first, I think and I know that a lot of founders will relate to this, you first need to get the local situation right. So when we started, we were very clear that focus drives growth. We wanted to make sure that we get Singapore right. We really focused out there. Like I mentioned, we were with a different cloud partner till we found out how Microsoft is very, very keen to make sure that not only do we have technical support to co-innovate, but the security, data, credibility with the clients, and to be part of your innovation cycle. So you want to be there to go and be able to brainstorm with a partner who can help you make your products better. And we've had a lot of that interaction and support from our and finally, of course, go to market, just kind of making sure that you have a voice in the market, you have the credibility with somebody backing you and your technology. So I think when you look at a cloud partner, you must make sure, and whether it is Azure or AWS or Google, what is right for your technology, what is right for your product, and what really resonates, and how much does the cloud partner want to partner with you to help you grow and scale. Finally, I think density is really key. So like I mentioned, get the local right, get the density right, make sure. So we were very focused on Singapore. We wanted to make sure that there is a brand, people recognize the name. There is a solid market share within Singapore before we go out to other. SaaS is one of the very key reasons why we started to think global. With SaaS, your control center is in one place. You don't have to invest in teams to go on site and kind of do project development or on-site support or so that is one of the very key reasons why we are very, the barrier to go global is very, very low. Once you've got the local right, you know that there is a product market fit, there is a demand for that product. You need an engine which can then, all you're looking at is one step at a time, right? You're looking at a new market, you're looking at your, leveraging your current clients to leverage into the new market. And SaaS cloud-based has been very instrumental in breaking that barrier and kind of giving you that impetus. Product market fit, needless to say, I mean, any new market. So I'll give you an example. We decided on expanding to UAE, primarily because one, of course, we had the anchor. We had a partner, we had Sheikh's office, who were really keen to bring us in. They wanted to be the GTM partners with us to kind of open up doors. But then we realized what is the delta that we need to have to make sure that the product actually fits into the UAE market. And we realized things like having local language, Arabic translation is key. So when you're thinking of expansion, obviously you need to see the machinery that takes you there, but also how well does the product fit into that current market? So we knew that there was a lot of demand in UAE, but we needed to do some deltas. It made sense. They were very small pivots, and we said this seems like a good expansion plan. Team, of course. So we started to leverage on that market from Singapore before we actually planted team on the ground. So it's really important that you take one step at a time and dip your toes before you go and boil the ocean. We've, again, as a company, we believe in Kaizen and Agile. With Kaizen, being very, very close to the clients, always constantly talking to them to see what do you love about the product so that we can do more of that. And, what is it that you want to improve and what is the change you want to see? And that's how we've really kind of evolved the product. That helps you, one, to build a product for the market. The product market fit is extremely much easier that way because you've built it with the market. And also it's great on your pocket. So, you can manage your cash flows and have clients kind of be that advocate. So going global, like I mentioned, I mean, I can't stress how instrumental cloud has been for us going global. Again, dip your toes, don't boil the ocean, do a very quick go, no go kind of a decision, but also don't be too rash, right? Like it takes time. And in my estimate for us, it takes roughly between 6 to 8 months to really capture a market, to get your first few clients, or so literally the story only starts after 6 to 8 months. So plan in advance. And if you're going to budget those numbers, do not budget for it in your forecast for a good 6 to 8 months. Otherwise, there's going to be disappointment, and then you might take some rash decisions. Product market fit, understand the pivots, understand the delta for that particular market. Don't boil the ocean. We've always looked for an anchor, like a solid reason why we should go to that market. It could be a big client that we had in Singapore, who has given us an opportunity to work with them globally, or in a market in the UK. So UK is the next market that we are currently really focused on, in Europe. So you need to have some solid reason Why you're looking at that? Is it that there's a huge demand, and but what is the anchor? What is it that's really holding you strong and giving back and watching your back, in that new market? Um, Partnering, partnering is just so key when you're starting off as a startup, whether it is product integration, whether it's your features on the product, or it's a go-to-market or system integrators. You cannot do everything yourself. So you need to fit into an ecosystem, and then you need to start creating your own ecosystem, which you can sustain and kind of really help you scale to the new markets. So now, disclaimer here again. I mean, I was very intrigued by Simon's slide on pillars. So Simon, you had 4 pillars. We talk about 5 pillars in Zopa. First thing first, we are here because of the product. It needs to work. It needs to really make an impact. It needs to really speak on what is the impact you're trying to make, what do you stand for, and why should somebody buy you? So clearly, product is something that we are constantly, like I said, with Kaizen and Agile, we are constantly looking at product, we're looking at competition, we're looking at the pain points and constantly evolving. People, I mean, you cannot get anywhere without people, right? Like you need to have, so for me, we have what is called as a executive leadership team. I have 11 direct reportees who work with me. We are overall 60 plus people right now. And I am absolutely nothing if I did not have this line of defense, and just so key. And then this culture goes down right to the bottom of the pyramid. There is a sense of purpose. There's a sense of why we get up in the morning and work for Zopa, and uh, just that whole adrenaline and that drive and that hunger to make an impact. Clients, I mean, uh, I cannot, again, there's nothing to kind of elaborate more on how important. Again, for us, we are super focused on, yes, obviously we want to scale, we want to grow, get new clients, but we kind of really work towards the zero churn culture. We want to make sure we do whatever it takes to make sure our clients stay with us. We are fortunate because of B2B. Our churn is less than 3%, and we've had months of 0%. So clients, absolutely no question. Listening to them, really talking to them, understanding what they like, what they don't like, what would they love to see on the platform, and so on. Processes. Now, when it was just me and my co-founder, we had absolute chaotic way of working, a lot of ideas flowing here and there. And then we became 10 and then became 20 and now we are 60. And there is no way we can afford to not automate our own company. So we are beginning to start to use a lot of AI and data-driven dashboards within the company. Subjectivity is absolutely discouraged. We look at data, we look at numbers, and we take most of the decisions are very, very objective. When I say investors, I don't really mean as investors. What I really mean is your finances. I think it's just so important to keep an eye on your scale and your cost. Typically I think founders are mostly optimists, and we're always looking at the upside, and which really should be the way we should go forward. But it's really important you manage your risks, but don't get alarmist or don't get negative. I mean, because then it becomes a hurdle. The other big thing I've learned is that if you are able to forecast accurately, if you can visualize it, and your forecasts are to the dot, you know your people, you know your clients, you know your market, you know your product. So it's, for us, we measure accuracy of forecasting for every single person in the company. And that's one of the skills that we are constantly honing on. How do we make sure that we are in that, plus or minus 5% of our forecasting? So yes, with that, thank you very much for listening to me. And I really appreciate being here. Thank you so much. Over to you, Manoj.
Thank you, Ms. Nina, for sharing showing how SOPA successfully scaled up their business globally. And our final speaker today is Ms. Cherise Lee from Microsoft. She will share on the support available for ISVs now who want to grow. Cherry's insights have been honed by more than 8 years working with startups, SMBs to establish their footprints across Singapore and the Asia Pacific. As the Partner Development Manager in Microsoft, she is responsible for nurturing ISV's growth locally and through geo-expansion programs. She leads a 360 business relationship with her portfolio of partners and assists them through the processes of bringing new services and offerings and solutions to the market. With ISVs built on the Microsoft Cloud, she will help our partners to innovate, digitize, and provide further differentiated value and experiences in their digital transformation journey. Ms. Cherise, over to you.
Thanks, Manoj. Let me share. Okay, you're able to see my screen? Okay. All right, thank you so much for being here today. Good morning. And thanks, Simon. Thanks, Nina, for sharing. Simon touched on being cost efficient, and Nina touched a lot about good tips that help her to grow. So today I'm going to share with you opportunities and benefits that you can scale with Microsoft. And we're going to talk about some big bets that will help you to land more customers, help you to save your costs, and help you to expand your app offerings. So in today's agenda, we'll be touching on some points on how you can leverage on Azure to grow your business. We look at the opportunities for partners from an economic standpoint. We look at how our partners actually achieve success and what are the steps you can take now and in future. Lastly, we're going to dive into what you can do next and what are the exact steps that you can take to grow. Some top of the mind for startups, which Nina has shared quite a number of it as well. Number one, they are looking to reduce costs, get to market fast. They want to ensure that guaranteed performance, scale the revenue. What's the next breakthrough? They're looking to create a differentiated value and a personalized experience for the customers. They are also looking on the build side on how their developers could have the flexibility, portability to build, as well as how could they incorporate some multi-cloud strategies to reach new customers. And all in all, the foundation, how can they be assured to build on a very robust, secured, and compliant cloud? So let's just ground first on Azure's momentum. So as you can see, Azure has continued to be growing at a blazing pace from Flexera's 2021 State of the Cloud report. And what this translates is that we are entering into a more and more multi-cloud world. Your customers might be asking you, do you build on Azure? Or they are asking you now, are you building on Azure? And I'm sure that you've been seeing that happening today. Azure is gaining popularity, and we feel fortunate to have more than 95% of Fortune 500 companies inventing with Azure. And what this essentially means is that you have increased sales opportunities to sell to this wide and broad customer base Microsoft has and is growing rapidly. So growing your business, it's more than just technology. And Microsoft has a strong record of helping our partners grow. So we work with Forrester to interview a few broad range of Microsoft partners, from smaller enterprises to established companies with several billions of dollars in revenue. And the goal was actually to quantify what is the actual economic opportunity of working with Azure. And I must say the results, it's pretty astounding. So on an average, partners saw their leads increase 2 times in their pipeline. Their deal size, it's larger by 50 to 100% of their average deal size. And it helps them to close those deals 30% faster. And all in all, this contributes to a 12% increase in their gross margin. So we can see an overview that partners with Azure increase their pipeline 2 times, they close their deal faster, and the deal tend to be larger. So how can Azure help our partners and help you to grow? So we want to build together with you. And when we speak to partners, they highlight many benefits that help them to accelerate their growth. But there's 3 key ones that I'd like to touch on. The first one, you get leading security and compliance. You get to lower your costs and gain agility, such as building on low code. You can build on your terms with flexibility. And the last one we look at is to really extend your reach and to get to market fast. So let's just dive deeper into the 3 points. It's critical that you are on a cloud that you can trust because your customer trusts your cloud and because they need to trust your application and where their data is being stored at. So you just want to really make sure that your application is secure, reliable, and compliant with all local standards. You can see here that our investment and coverage in security at Microsoft is unparalleled, and we take this really seriously. 95% of Fortune 500 uses Azure for the same reason, and the same security that we provide these leading companies is the same level of protection that we provide out of the box for everyone. So regardless of the size of your company or your product, you get that same level of security and compliance that other big companies are relying on. We also have trillions of signals for unparalleled compliance coverage. And let's just take a look deeper in it. We cover over 60 regions across the world, the most coverage only Microsoft Cloud has. And this means that wherever you're trying to expand or wherever you have customer conversations at, we are probably there. So your customer is going to expect you to deploy your solutions at their part of the world, and thus working with a hyperscaler to help you to do so will help you to propel that success. Our reach allows us to provide phenomenal availability and latency for your applications. And you can also feel good that we have an incredible amount of resiliency built in for your solutions. Our product on the Microsoft Cloud are industry leaders on their own. But when you combine them, it's even much more powerful because we have this unmatched integrations, and all these are built on the world's most secure cloud that your developers can leverage on. And that is remarkable. With this fully integrated stack, Azure offers you ways to lower your costs and gain agility. Beyond what you get simply from being on the cloud, Azure provides the most comprehensive application development ecosystem to help you be nimble and productive. And essentially what this means is that you have more flexibility to adapt to the ways your developers want to build and how you want to build. What we take ahead is we vertically integrated the Microsoft Cloud by industry so that we can provide you with a more differentiated value and help our partners transcend boundaries with tailored industry solutions. We design industry challenges in mind. The Microsoft Cloud for Industries can enable startups to improve time to value, increase agility, and reduce costs, being the most trusted and comprehensive cloud. Azure technology continues to grow, providing the perfect foundation to enable you to scale and to innovate. So over the past year, we launched over 1,000 capabilities across AIs, blockchains, Kubernetes, containers, databases, and much more to ensure that we are keeping you ahead of the curve. And this is on top of the core products and services we offer today. So we are focused on adding innovations to places that matter most for you to build applications and provide that differentiated value and great experience for your user. So when we talk about building, we talk about how we can go to market. And that's bring us to this point. Azure can help you extend your reach and get to market faster. And we do this with our partners through a multi-channel strategy. And that helps you to increase your deal size, shorten your sales cycle, and advance through add-on offers. So in Microsoft, there are multi-channels for you to go to market with us. And I really want to talk about this core three. The first being the commercial marketplace. We have 4 million monthly active shoppers who are actively looking for solutions to adopt and digitally transform their business. We also have partner to partner, where we have 90,000 over CSP resellers who are incentivized to resell your product across the globe. And we also have co-sell motion with 15,000 Microsoft field sellers to help you to reach to your target segments wherever you are. So we set these motions in place for you to meet our customers, and we have our commercial marketplace. So there's two of them, Azure Marketplace and AppSource Marketplace, to marry our partner solutions with the need of our customer. And this same commercial marketplace is where our customer buys Microsoft technology. Customer discover your solutions through this portal and directly adding your technology to their Azure data lakes. 99% of our top 200 customers buys directly through our commercial marketplace. Our Microsoft field sellers who have direct relationships with 12,000 enterprise customers, they are incentivized to sell your solutions to their customers. And you also have access to CSP reseller program, where these 90,000 resellers are incentivized to resell your solutions across the world from the same catalog. And that is our commercial marketplace. Microsoft has built these relationships for more than 40 over years. And it is extremely useful when you want to expand to other markets. Microsoft will help you to make those connections and work together with you. So as you can see, our commercial marketplace is a no-brainer. We create the impact across the entire sales cycle to ensure that Azure can help our tech partners to grow. So touching on the next point, we have Microsoft for Startups, rebranded as Founders Hub. And this aims to lower some of the barriers that startups face and to help organizations avoid common pitfalls. This program focuses on 3 areas: lowering barriers for startups, providing access to GitHubs, the Microsoft Cloud, and other technologies, and providing mentorship for founders. So we have this program in place designed to help you develop at your own pace, providing up to 150,000 in credits to support you as your business grows. And there is more. You are able to build and iterate on your product with what you need, additional of 350,000 in benefits, free access to trusted development tools, including GitHub and Visual Studios. You have free collaboration tools, including Microsoft Teams. And the new hub from Microsoft will also connect founders with experts within their respective industries. And startups will be able to receive technical support as well as training for how to lead an organization. Microsoft will also help founders network with mentors. I like to stress that access to a strong and diverse network is very critical to a startup success, and we are making this historically inaccessible resource open to all. So there's step-by-step guidance from insiders to understand when, how, and why to raise a funding round. You get to build on a trusted, secure, and compliant cloud on top of it of your solutions. You get opportunities to grow your business and to really sell with Microsoft go-to-market channels and services. So there's a couple of things on how you're going to unlock these benefits for you. The first one is try out Azure. You can migrate to Azure, you can start your multi-cloud, and you can engage, for example, Ripe Service, one of our CSP partners, to actually help you to do so. You can simply just build on Azure. And we can take this aside on how you can do this confidently. Next, you can become a Microsoft partner after. There's a huge array of benefits that can help you to really go to market and to really figure out how to get that proper support and how to scale and to really get the backing from the Microsoft brand. You can create a marketplace offer after on AppSource and Azure. So going further after, you can consider and explore additional 3 more things. You can develop Azure specific add-ons, and this is a huge, big benefit and opportunity if your solution is able to add on top of an Azure service. You can expand your services to support your app. And we know that retention is now the new growth. So how do you find those things when you don't have time to build or to figure out how you can add on services? You have a huge partner ecosystem that Microsoft has made available to make it happen for you. And the last and most important one that I really like to stress, and sometimes it's, it's not being focused or forgot upon, is to really leverage those partner benefits that Microsoft have for you. To really figure out how you can utilize these benefits to go to market and how to take advantage of all the offerings Microsoft provides to you. And that's not all. We know it's tough sometimes, to get it started. So we have these programs for you. So we have support to help you to build your applications and really grow your business because we want you to be very successful. Whether you're building on Azure for your first application, or whether you're coming from another cloud, or whether you're considering moving from on-prem to cloud. So we have Fast Track for Azure, where ISV and startups get a one-to-one custom technical guidance from Azure engineers for eligible tech partners to help design, build, and publish applications on our Microsoft AppSource and Azure Marketplace. We also have Azure Specialist, which is another program where vetted partners assist you with migrations and provide services from looking at architecture through deployment. We also have a huge amount of resources that you can tap on from, documentations, architectural diagrams, code samples. We have Microsoft Learn, and we even have virtual training days for you. And of course, what we mentioned earlier, the Founders Hub to get you started. Okay, and to grow, become a Microsoft partner. Make it official and become our Microsoft tech partner to go to market with us so we can help you to reach to more customers. The commercial marketplace. So we shared a lot about listing your offer, your solution on our marketplace. We have the cloud enablement desk team to actually assist you to list your offer as well. And of course, sell with Microsoft. You have the power of Microsoft sellers and the partner network on your side. And that's 90,000 partners and over 15,000 Microsoft sellers who are incentivized to sell your solution. So at Microsoft, we really want to build together with you. And there's a lot of opportunities out there. And I like to stress that Microsoft is the best ally working in tight concert with our tech partners. So we truly believe that our success is tied to yours. We are successful if you are successful. And that's where Microsoft partners with you together to build your innovations, to create that impact in the communities and people's life. I'd like to leave you some resources that you can tap on and to find more information. Otherwise, thank you so much for being here. We can open the floor to questions or you can put it in the chat. Otherwise, if it's too delicate, you can send through an email and we'll take it from there. I'll hand this back to Manoj.
Thank you, Ms. Cherise, for sharing on the different support available for ISVs who want to grow their business. Moving on to our last segment of the day, let us welcome back all our speakers for the panel discussion. I'll now hand over the time to our moderator for today, Mr. Guna, to bring us through this. Mr. Guna?
Thank you, Manish. So Simon, Nina, Charisse, thank you for your time. It was great listening to you guys in terms of how Parello could help organizations in their transformation. Nina, your experience, your sharing is actually very relevant because a lot of organizations are looking at how they can do it. And the message that you gave for Microsoft, I think is really cool. I also agree with you. Microsoft does have a lot of offer to clients who actually want to build a business, not beyond just a technology cloud platform. And Charisse, thanks for walking through the various programs and initiatives that Microsoft has on the Azure platform to help organizations in terms of moving the technology, going global, etc. So I've got a few questions, and I'll open up to all three of you, and anyone else want to share. The key thing is always about, like what Nina, you mentioned, right? Going global, how do you actually expand? So what do you look for in a public cloud provider? What is the one or two things that you think is critical in the selection of a cloud vendor? Maybe your own journey with Microsoft.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think I covered that quite a bit as well, Gunnar. The first thing that we looked at was obviously the credibility. How will our clients react to our cloud provider? We work with a lot of sensitive organizations, including government and, My Careers Future and IMDA and so on. So the first thing was credibility and how well is their data protected? How well what is the cybersecurity? So really on the compliance and the security front. But then as a startup, you need a partner that is there with you through the journey, whether it is through helping you with cost, whether it is helping you with co-innovation, selling your product, and so on. Interestingly, we in Zopa have been part of all of the three Microsoft journeys which Jarish mentioned. We were part of Microsoft for Startups, so I've experienced that as well. Got a lot of, introductions, a lot of chance to network and so on, and a lot of advice and also introductions to investors. We were also part of the geo expansion program of Microsoft. In fact, one of our biggest partners in the MENA market is a company which was introduced by Microsoft, and they're a big partner of ours. So yes, I mean, we need to make sure that our time is money. So whatever time we are investing in our partner, we see a ROI. We see the actual dollars that we spend on our Azure hosting is suitably we get a ROI. So it all comes down to that bottom line of the dollar figure, both whether it is subjective, but ultimately it all has to boil down to that dollar figure. And I think that is really key to see for any, just one last point, Gunnar. The other reason why it really helped us in our innovation was because we are as you know, we help in selections. And so there's a lot of cognitive tools that we use, and Azure has some very interesting cognitive tools. So we actually leveraged on those tools as well. Not only that, we got a lot of support also from the engineers in Microsoft to come and help us to co-innovate, because these are new use cases and these are new user situations. So yeah, I mean, I think I can't speak enough on our benefits here with the public cloud with Microsoft here.
Thanks, Nina. Simon, Charisse, anything maybe you'd like to add?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in there if that's all right, Charisse.
Sure.
I guess from our perspective, and I think Nina mentioned this, but looking at what your market expectations are. So who is your customer, and what do they expect from a public cloud provider? Because depending on your market segmentation, if you're going after enterprise, they probably have quite a few demands, especially around compliance and security, and many large enterprises are already in Microsoft Enterprise Agreement consumers. They've probably already got, I think, as Charisse pointed out, 95% of Fortune 500s are leveraging Azure, so they're already familiar with it. And so if you're coming to them with an application that is already on Azure, then I think that's certainly a tick in the box. Something slightly off topic, but the authentication mechanism that you use, if you're using Azure AD authentication, then that's another tick in the box. That's really quite important. I think we've had maybe 2 or 3 very specific examples of customer demand to not be on AWS, and I'm not saying bad things about AWS, just a perception that because they have Amazon, then retail customers don't like it. So, you know, if you're building an app to target retail, you might want to consider building that on Azure. I think also the massive amount of compliance standards that Azure is certified to is just amazing. You know, it's last time I counted there were 70 something, it's probably more than that now. And some of the really advanced features of Azure around Security Center and its automated reporting of compliance for your environment against, for example, ISO 27001 controls. You know, that is out of the box. You know, it's just fabulous. So those sorts of things, I know I'm being Azure centric, but those sorts of things are certainly, you know, building for your market and meeting its demands are really important. And just to round that out, Charisse shared that Azure is in 60 regions around the world. I'm proud to say that Parallel customers are in 34 of those regions, and they do that so that they can be really close to their customer, whether it's for, you know, compliance reasons or GDPR or just end user experience. You know, optimizing the distance between the end user and the application. It's so important. So making sure that, you know, the region that you're selling into, you know, make sure that the public cloud provider has a really close presence. I think that's quite key.
Hey, thanks, Simon. I think the interesting takeaway that I see here from Nina, your experience is what Simon brought up, is the fact that it's beyond a technology platform. So as a ISV, you're not choosing a cloud provider because it's cheap or because he offers you this bell or that whistle. Yes, Microsoft does offer a lot of those bells and whistles, but more likely or more importantly, on top of it, your clients that you are selling to trust and like the offer that Azure brings to the table, beyond just being a compute service provider. But you also touched the fact that it's the go to market, go to business piece of it that's important to an ISV. As you were starting up, Microsoft was there, not just with funding, was there with technology advice, was able to help your business expand and grow. And the business networking that you as an ISV require to expand into other markets, right? It's not easy. And having the right connect of another trusted partner to land in. I totally agree with you. And these are some of the capabilities that Azure brings to a table at being an enterprise cloud provider. So like that, and I think that's really important because a lot of organizations tend to get hooked into this bell and whistle. Do you have this? Is it 10 cents per dollar versus 9 cents per dollar? That's not the thing that's going to make your investors happy. And I like Simon's report about how you actually get funding, and that funding never says how much you spend on a compute machine, right? Be it on any cloud platform. So let me ask you a different thing. What advice that you've received in your journey, right? From the day that you and your business partner started this business, what do you think was the best advice, or maybe one piece of advice that you give to others that are embarking on the same journey that you found most valuable?
Is that for me, Guna?
I think that
Yeah. Okay.
I'll go to you and I go to Simon. I don't think Charisse knows when Microsoft was a startup and when, but two of you are of the right age group to know, at least for your companies.
Yeah, no, absolutely, Guna. I think I would say there are two pieces of advice that you know, I value a lot. One is fiscal management. You know, not all CEOs are financially trained. You're not an accounting or a finance person. So I loved what you just said, that don't just look at that, you know, that 10 cent saving. You need to see what is the bigger impact. You need to really know your numbers well. And we've just closed our Series A, and I'm beginning to see how much more of a learning I need to do in terms of, you know, predicting cash flows and forecasts and how close we are to the forecast. I mean, the point being that if you can't predict it, it is very hard to solve it, and then one fine day you're going to be up against the wall. So I think that whole fiscal management is just very key. And second advice that I got, and I think it's quite linked as well, is that rely on data, right? Like even within our own companies, we tend to get quite subjective, right? Like, you know, you have these internal meetings and you everybody's talking, and there's PowerPoints, and then you get lost in all of that. But rely on metrics, rely on clear numbers, or on if for example, if you're doing a certain event or a marketing activity, how many marketing qualified leads, how many sales qualified leads. So really kind of bringing it down to data. And I think that we have now we don't do any meetings without dashboards on Power BI. So we need to have that dashboard there and really talk numbers and to talk data really. So Guna, I think those two would be something that I really value.
Very interesting. Simon, what do you think?
Sure. I've got a couple actually, and one of them really dovetails into what Nina said, which is build what people will buy. So I think certainly, I'm an engineer, an IT engineer in my background, and I've been building sort of innovative products for people for a long time. And the first one, first major one that I ever built was back in mid 2000s. It was one of the very first backup to cloud services in New Zealand before the cloud was a thing, and we built this technically brilliant solution. So it was just robust. It was A1. It gave you really great assurance from a data protection perspective that it would work if you ever needed it to restore, and it cost something like $2 a gig a month, which back then wasn't too bad. It was a new emerging market. And then these guys over the road, basically, almost literally, pulled together a bunch of secondhand hardware and got quite a cheap product called Shadow Protect, which is still in market and still quite popular. And they went to market with the same outcome pitching, but the quality of backup you got from a Shadow Protect backup was as if you had yanked the power out of your server and then turned it back on. So you had to roll the dice and hope that the database mechanisms made the database, solid again and so on. And they went to market and they sold way more than we did. And when I'd go to and talk to someone, I go, why are you buying that piece of garbage? Here is a perfect solution. It's so good. And they said, look, I'm willing to take the risk. It's, 25% the cost of yours, and I'll just take the risk. And that was a real lesson direct from the customer, saying, don't build what is fabulous, build what people want to buy. So I think that's a lesson I've kept with me, which has been quite material. And the other one, Nina actually mentioned it as well. Sorry, Nina, I'm taking away all your quotes, but certainly having the right people in the team and knowing when it's time to relinquish something to someone else who is better at it than you are. And I think if you have that humble sort of persona about yourself, knowing that, hey, you're certainly, I know in me, I'm a galvanizer, which means I can see something that some other people can't. I can gather people around me, make it and build a service or a business around it to make it work. And then I need to bring in other people to help me actually scale it and run it and so on. And I know that about myself. So I guess being self-aware and getting the right people and getting the best possible people you can afford is the way to go, for sure.
I'd like to share, Guna. Can I say something?
Of course. You talked a lot about ISV, so I want to go to you next to ask you from your perspective, what do ISVs appreciate?
I see. I wanted to just actually touch on the previous question that Simon and Nina were sharing. So prior to Microsoft, I was actually heading the partnerships and business development in an ISV itself. It's a startup, right? So when Nina shared about, hey, CEO doesn't mean that they know every number, how people is really important. Simon talked about the product, the importance of it. And I really like to stress that one of the main takeaway lesson when I was in the startup, really driving that, it's to make data-driven decisions. A lot of times you have all the teams and even your management team coming to you and said, sales side, oh, my customer wants this, marketing, they want another thing. Customer success, oh no, we need to enhance this. And we go to the product team and we tell the product team, oh, I need this enhancement, I need this new feature, the competitor is having this. Everything is just based on one-sided. But I feel that one huge takeaway is leverage on your internal data. Know what your customer really need. Know the usage rate. and really know what is the next best, and then use external data to know where the market is driving at. Do your market research. And I think that will actually give you a better bet compared to, just on your very emotional base or just on your very perspective. And I think that is something that is essential, and like building even analytics, how Zopa came up with AI analytics. I think that's brilliant in the market so that you can really make that objective decision. Yeah.
Yeah, good one, Cherise. So actually, everyone is coming from a slightly different angle. So I agree with you that when you're first starting out your product, your go-to-market, I agree with what Simon said and you said. Look at the market, look at what market wants, and what the market will buy. So we all have our own blinders on. Each of us have got a background. Whether you're 20 years old or you're 50 years old, all of us have got certain experiences that leads to that startup. But a lot of times we tend to be blinded by our own observations or our preconceived. So we tend to build, like what Simon said, the best and the greatest backup there may be, but customers may not be willing to buy it. So yes, you really need to go and do a lot of research in terms of what the market is prepared to pay for and what the market is prepared to buy or wants to buy. And Anurag's on the chat and he had a very interesting comment. People are still people. People like a good fish market. And I give a lot of people the analogy. Every Saturday morning, I actually go to a wet market. Despite me buying a lot of stuff from a supermarket, I will still buy fish from the fish market, from a fishmonger. Perceptions, etc. My fishmonger is in business and will continue to be in business because I will still buy from him. I won't buy fish from a Shenzhen or NTUC or a cold storage, right? So the market is different and everyone needs to understand their target market. But I think you also brought up, as you start maturing, a lot of startups have got a strong tech background or may even have a strong market background, but the fiscal responsibility, I totally agree with you. When people say 1 out of 10 startups or 1 out of 100 startups make it, it's usually the problem is not the challenge, the technology, but usually it's they're having the fiscal responsibility to be able to manage the finance piece of it, to be able to scale and grow accordingly. I've met startups as well that basically told me that, Gunam, we're not interested in expanding into the Indian market. So I said, well, India is a large market, your products seem to be fit. But I said, no, we want to take it cautiously. We want to expand into markets with where we are comfortable with, and we know that we can make an impact. So they didn't take their funding and they dump it into a market like India and then try to get successful there, right? So it took them another 2 years before they were comfortable with market knowledge, ready partners out there before they expanded to the market. So I totally agree with you on the fiscal piece. And I totally agree, data is really, really important, right? Running a business based on data, like I said, everyone walks in with blinders, right? So everyone got this perception that this works, that doesn't work. But let the data tell you what really works, what doesn't work. And working with a partner like Azure, who have access to a lot of the data or market data also helps. So maybe I'll ask one last question, and maybe Cherise or Simon, you can jump in more. What do you see in the market? What are the key trends that you see, whether it's a technology or whether it is a startup that you think you're watching? What are the key technologies out there in the ISV or the SaaS segment that you think is worth looking at? Not from an investment perspective, but maybe you can give us a bunch of tips in terms of what the audience should be looking at if they were looking to develop. What should they be looking at to emulate, for example?
Right. I think probably over the past 2 years, the pandemic has really fueled a lot of growth in various sectors and various industries. And it's really evident on how we actually work now. In the past, working remote or hybrid is just not so common, but now it's something like the norm. So we do see a lot of business apps, collaborative tools emerging in the market, and how they can really impact lives, and how meetings, like we're having webinar now through online, and I think that that's really amazing. But what we can see forward and really accelerate is to what I'm seeing is like virtual and reality is being brought closer. There's a lot of talks about the metaverse, a lot of collaborations on that. There's also the propel into the fintech space. You know, we see a lot of digital currencies. Central banks are actually trying to figure out on whether they can adopt a digital currency within, and there's like 100 over countries actually looking into it. So there's a lot of, I would say, not really specific, but it's going to accelerate from now. Whether it's going to be fintech, it's going to be healthcare, you know, healthcare is going to change how people get treatments is going to change, right, through R&D. So I do see that a lot going towards the future. It's just going to accelerate even faster with innovations.
Okay, thanks. Simon, Nina?
Simon, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Okay. I guess from our perspective, we're seeing, I agree with Sharice, a lot of fintech. Health tech as well is quite prominent across our customer base. I've noticed that a lot of the big venture capital firms are now releasing Web3 funds, you know, focused on blockchain and so on. Personally, I'm not a big fan of blockchain due to the obvious downsides of it, but we do have, in fact, I've invested in one company that is a blockchain consumer for supply chain, which is sort of a valid reason for using it, I think. So those things are really fascinating, and I don't think we've really seen the, you know, we've seen the real valid use for those sort of, you know, blockchain type. I mean, yes, finance, but there's, yeah, I think we'll see those come about. I think certainly in terms of trends and what works well. Two key factors, really. One is if you're building a SaaS application, you must build integrations with other popular applications, or at least something like Zapier or, you know, an integration platform. You know, I know as a consumer, so a good example, we were looking for a business process automation tool, and there was one that was really expensive and did everything, and there was one that was, you know, half the price and is actually a Kiwi company called Flowingly that our parent Ripe actually uses. And I was interested in what the other tool could do because it had way more features. And when the person started telling me about, I said, okay, what are the commercials? Well, how many servers do you want and how often do you want them patched? And I'm like, oh, no, sorry, don't talk to me about that. I just want to pay you a monthly fee and consume it. You know, so that sort of that SaaS approach and integration, I think, is absolutely essential. Nina, your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, I obviously kind of use, work with a lot of startups only because so that they make our operations more seamless. So I've seen some very innovative tools about which help you make a non-financial person like me suddenly a pro, that I give these amazing reports to my investors, and even I'm quite amazed at it. So integrations, like you mentioned, Simon, integrations into your financial data and again, those dashboards. But I think a lot of trend in the whole people space, and I may be biased here because I'm in that space, but for example, mental health. That's a big topic. In fact, my son has a mental health startup. So we are all crazy people in our family. You know, they didn't learn a lesson from their mothers. But anyway, so a lot of focus on human mental health, physical health, disruption, especially disruption of the whole GP system, because in the UK it's quite centralized to your GP with NHS. So there's been a massive massive expansion on startups trying to do telemedicine and so some very, very interesting startups out there. And yeah, I mean, for us, it's all about people. So anything around people is just awesomely interesting.
Hey, thanks, Jinan. But I agree with you that there's been a lot of increased awareness around mental health.
Yes.
And as a whole, healthcare as an industry has been slow to adopt cloud and innovation. People have been talking about telemedicine for ages, but
yes,
that's effectively why the technology kind of stopped. But we've seen a lot more adoption coming up, and especially things like AI. While we may say that AI is a passé topic for fintech, but specific applications of AI, and now more importantly, AI and governance. I really like the topic of ethical AI, and I'm a strong believer in the fact that AI is good, but AI needs to be managed, and the whole consideration of ethical AI is important. So I think those areas are really interesting. Healthcare and fintech, again, maybe specialized areas. Yes, blockchain is a passe again for blockchain for everything, but specific users, documentation, contract management. I think there's been a lot of interesting applications of blockchain. Crypto, looking at the way Bitcoin prices and doggy coin prices go up and down because Elon Musk says something. You know, it leaves me very skeptical about cryptocurrency, other than the fact that it needs to be governed. But really, thanks for sharing all of the insights about hot industries, focus areas, even from a technology platform. It was a very good sharing session. And Cherise, thanks from a Microsoft perspective, also sharing with the SG Tech members what's available out there to support them in their journey. As like I said, SG Tech helps both parties. We help our members adopt cloud, not just as a platform, but as a business platform in terms of how they can transform their businesses. But at the same time, we also need to help the industry adopt cloud. And therefore, we try to approach it from both angles, as in not just the what I call the demand side, which is the end users, but also a supply side, which is the SG Tech members offering the solution on the cloud. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate all of you taking your time to join SG Tech, Simon from Paralo, Nina from SOPA, and Cherise from Microsoft, and me and Manoj and the rest of the team. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. With that, I think we can reach the closing. Manoj, if you've got nothing else to, yes, please help me with the closing comments.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much, Guna, and our speakers for that very insightful discussion. Lastly, of course, we appreciate if you can give us feedback on today's webinar. Your feedback will be very valuable to us to help us improve on future webinars. Simply scan the QR code and to access the feedback form, or type the URL in your browser. I'll leave this slide on. With that, I thank you all so much for joining us today. Hope that this session has been insightful and fruitful. Please stay safe, and I hope to see you at future events. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to you.
Thank you very much, everyone. See ya.